You're listening to the Masonic Light Podcast. Starring Pete Ruggieri, Larry Maris, and Jason Lewis. This podcast is not endorsed by any Grand Lodge, and the ridiculous ramblings of the hosts are their own. So sit back and enjoy some Masonic conversation without pretension. And now, here's your hosts, Pete, Larry, and Jason.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Masonic Light Podcast. It's episode 27. Is that too loud? You guys are all looking scared at me.
Or so.
No, 27.
No, episode 27. And we have the whole crew here. Jack, what were you doing last week? We'll start with you.
Up?
What were you doing while we were missing?
What was I doing last week? I had a business travel.
Borough Council.
Was that? Oh, that's what it was. Yes. Actually, it was a lodge event. I was appearing before the Borough Council subcommittee on highways and the relative humidity of, I don't know, some ridiculous committee for the borough. And what we're trying to do is, because of the shift in demographics of the lodge, where now at least 60% of our membership is over the age of 75, we asked them to set aside 4 parking spaces in front of the lodge because we meet on Main Street in Ephrata, and it's a very busy highway, US 322, every second Tuesday at 7 o'clock if you'd like to join us.
And you have no elevator.
And
and on-street parking.
But we do have some young members who will carry you up the stairs. So we think we've got the ADA compliance thing going there with that. But so I don't know how it went. It's good to have friends on Borough Council. Wink, wink, and show your ring.
What ring is that?
I don't know. It's
Your class ring?
That and $5 will get you a cup of coffee.
My fraternity ring.
Yeah. Jason, do you have anything Masonic happening the past couple weeks?
Mine's been boring. Just admin, executive meetings, getting ready for Scottish Rite reunion, and but no meetings. Just officer meetings, board meetings, Masonic Center meetings, work meetings.
So, in other words, meetings.
Meetings.
Boring. Yep.
None of us are as dumb as all of us. That's what a meeting's all about.
Did we? I don't remember. Did we talk about virtual island Castle Lodge? Castle Island Virtual Lodge?
No.
I don't think we did. No.
Because I told you it sounded silly, but you said it actually was pretty cool.
Yeah. Castle Island Virtual Lodge. I attended about 2-3 weeks ago with Jack Eichholina was there. Scott Hoover came over to my house and we tiled my office, but that was pretty fun. So I think we recorded since then, but that was actually, it was great. It was a lot of fun. There was guys from, Australia, Malaysia, a lot of people from Pennsylvania. There was us from Pennsylvania, another gentleman from Pennsylvania, California, Colorado, and their Grand Lodge is out of Manitoba.
So what do you guys talk about?
What's open to enter an apprentice, and they read their minutes, like normal. And then there's a speaker. And
so do you just stand up and you do the signs in your room?
There was a sign.
Yourself?
There was a sign thrown at
In the
opening.
mirror.
Yeah, and that was about it.
But nobody got to see it because that was on.
No, it's on video. It's all through WebEx. It's a secured WebEx link. And before you before you get on, you need to send your letter of good standing or have somebody vouch for you, yada, yada. The district deputy of one of the districts in Manitoba
have any of the district deputies in Pennsylvania approved of that?
I don't think the district deputies in Pennsylvania would even know how to access it.
I don't think they ever need to know.
They would just get somebody to watch on their behalf.
No, it's all innocuous anyway.
But it was a lot of fun. Knock it all you want, but it was a lot of fun.
The worshipful master of that virtual lodge, I think, wants to appear on our show. Am I right about that?
He does, and he wants to appear virtually.
Yes, virtually.
That's virtually amazing.
It'll be a virtuous night.
Had to be said.
Larry, do you have anything Masonically?
Lodge meeting last Tuesday.
How was that?
The deputy district grand master was there with all the pomp and ceremony and all the worshipful masters from the various lodges.
We love purple collars and purple aprons.
2.5 hours later, we get out of there at 10 o'clock. Long night. But it was a good night. It was a good night.
But the good news was we have sound coming. We're gonna
Yes.
We're gonna mic up the Blue Room.
Yep.
Very cool.
Wait, what? We should be on the History Channel.
I know, right?
And Goose and Gridiron.
Oh, yeah.
I'll always bring that up. I am speaking at the Zembo this coming Wednesday.
Zembo Shrine in
Yes, Zembo
Harrisburg.
Shrine in Harrisburg. The Legion of Honor.
They haven't sold that building yet.
No, not yet.
He's actually standing in the parking lot speaking.
Well, that's true. Hey, man,
Right next to this sign.
And padlocked it. I'll be out in the parking lot giving the speech. You're
It is
absolutely
a
right.
beautiful building.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
In fact, Jack gave me a Jim Beam beer decanter or liquor decanter a couple years ago of the Zembo Mosque.
I did. I want that back.
So yeah, it was actually before we started all of our international conflicts, they kind of referred to the Zembo Shrine as the Zembo Mosque.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently we just don't do that anymore. I don't know whether it's intentional or not.
I had no idea. Like back in, I guess, the 20s and 30s, the tiki and Middle Eastern theme was pretty common in fraternal.
Pretty much, yeah.
gatherings.
So that's how like the Fez came about for Shrine, for Grotto, and a bunch of other.
Napoleon had just finished, pillaging Egypt, so that's when all that.
Yeah, they had just, I guess, just got into Tutankhamun's tomb in the 1920s. So
Right.
it was like all a rage. So yeah, anything started in the 20s was probably Egyptian based.
Maybe
Right,
two.
yeah.
Although
Me?
before I became a Mason, I was in Atlanta on business, and we went to the Fox Theater. And one of the guys in the group that we were with looked around and he's like, "Wow, I know what this is." Like, what are you talking about? He says, "This is a Masonic hall right here." And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, there's stuff all through the Fox Theater in Atlanta. This had to be a Shrine auditorium." And it turns out, I guess it was. I don't know.
I didn't know
I'm not a
Michael
Shrine.
J. Fox had a
It's true.
auditorium.
Go back in time.
Isn't that where they showed Gone with the Wind for the first time?
It was, yeah. It was a huge thing. Yeah.
Only thing I had going on was we had a Tall Cedars meeting. So yeah, that was all. The meeting went okay. The meeting was very painful. Let me tell you guys about the meeting.
The Tall Cedar?
Yeah, and I'm only telling you because I'm pretty sure the two people involved don't listen to the show. Well, one does.
No, one does. And he said to me, "Has Pete told you about the meeting we had yet?"
No, dear.
And I said, "No, but we're going to talk about it tonight."
Oh,
And he said, "Oh, Lord."
okay. So a couple things happened, and I think I'm not speaking out of school when I say that our other brother Larry, who's a past master of our lodge, gets, even though he talks in front of people for a living, I think he gets a little bit nervous when he talks in front of people. And so he was trying to set up the AV equipment for our speaker,
Oh, sweet Lord.
and he couldn't get the DVD player to play through his laptop and into the projector. And now he has tunnel vision because that's all he can think about. He's not thinking about the fact that it's junior senior night and he's the senior deputy grand hall, so it's kind of like his thing. And I've only been in this organization for a few months and I'm the junior. So, but before all that happened, we had our agenda laid out for the evening, and Bob, who is an elderly gentleman that comes to our breakfast, his job is called the preceptor, and they kind of, it's kind of like the guy that comes out, warms up the crowd, and he announces the officers. Well, Bob started reading something at like 6:30 before he was getting ready to serve dinner. That was supposed to be like way after dinner and during so he like tells us all to line up, and he sends all the visiting officers out into the hallway to be introduced. Live and learn. So Larry, what's the topic of tonight's show?
The topic of tonight's show is the Templar myth and Freemasonry.
All right, well, let's take a break and we'll come back to the Templar myth. The Red Serpent by Larry Maris. One man's obsession to avenge the death of his wife uncovers a long-hidden, ancient blueprint to perfect the world for future generations. visit www.larrymaris.com. You can purchase this book anywhere except CVS. Hey, and we're back. We had some good laughs while we were off air, so maybe we'll see if any of that is playable. So, Larry,
Yes.
you have the great idea about what tonight's episode was going to be.
Yeah, basically, I chose it because I know Jack has some strong opinions about things, and I did a lot of research, and I presented a paper to the.
Well, you're pretty much obsessed
Lodge
with
of
the
Research.
Templars.
Yeah, but I'm not a Templar. Isn't that amazing?
Well, it's because your wife won't pay the dues for you.
Yeah, it's true.
Can't afford the horse.
No, they don't make uniforms for people built like us.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's true. You talked about getting them custom made. You're spending some big dollars. But anyway, so I thought that would be
You're
a good
wrong,
topic
Larry.
to-
You're completely wrong.
Totally
just,
wrong.
You're wrong.
Totally
You're-
wrong.
You're just wrong.
Well, basically, I'll kick it off. And what I think both Jack and I are going to say, and Jack, you can say this yourself. These are
free.
opinions.
Thank you very much.
What we're expressing here is our opinion on things. It's not fact. There are no real facts. No one can substantiate a thing about maybe Jack's viewpoint or my viewpoint. My point is, I think, my opinion, that we actually evolved from the Knights Templar through the course of all of events from about 1307, probably even before. That when the Pope or when the King invested Jacques de Molay, and the Templar Knights and their minions scattered around the damn world with all of their treasures, that there was a huge underground that was built, perhaps through stonemason lodges, cathedral builders, which was a perfect place for Templars to head off to because they funded most of the cathedrals. But there was a huge underground. There were something like about 35 to 45,000 knights that were actually part of the Templar service, part of the unit.
And each of those knights had a couple of
They had at least
servants and a
8
whole thing.
servants.
Yeah, so there was a whole entourage of people for each knight. That
Exactly,
there was.
for
Right.
each night. They had their farms, they had their holdings, they had their hotels, they had their fleet of trading ships and naval vessels. I mean, all of this, hundreds of thousands of people.
Right, none of it was located.
None of them was located.
Right.
Totally disappeared. Well, you had to have a heck of an underground. And my thing was, I think that through the fact that they were fleeing, they were going underground, they had a support network set up. And actually, I think a lot of the support network were basically trade unions, which we didn't call them unions at that time. We had their names, guilds. Thank you. Yeah. And there was a complete underground that was set up, and Freemasonry emanated from that underground, which tells me that theoretically maybe we did begin with the Knights Templar.
So Professor Robinson, because this sounds a
Oh, I think he's the greatest.
this
He's the
sounds
greatest.
a whole lot like that whole scenario.
But I base my
But hang on. But Born in Blood is the first book that most young Masons are handed when they join the lodge and say, "What is this really?" And they all get a copy of Born in Blood, and that becomes tattooed on them. And I'm sorry, Jason.
I don't have it tattooed on
Nothing
me.
personal. We can make that work though. But and God bless him. And I think there's some truth in what he writes. So don't get me wrong. I don't disbelieve everything you're saying. I just think you're completely wrong. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I know personally the first 2 books I read about Freemasonry were Born in Blood
Thank you.
and the Solomon Key. Or
Yeah,
which was like Knight and Lomas or
Yeah, oh,
the
yeah,
Hiram
yeah,
Key.
those
Hiram
guys,
Key.
yeah.
Yeah, and that was all about way before Dan Brown, where they alluded to the fact that the Knights were
Well, that's where the whole subject of the holy the
blood.
the blood royal
Sangreal,
right?
yeah.
Sangreal, yeah. But yeah, so
yeah, I'm predisposed to believing that because the first 2 books I read in Freemasonry were proponents of that.
right, and whether or not that's true or not is almost assuredly unprovable.
Well, here's another thing. I read those books as well, and but I read many, 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 many more. You see my library downstairs. Half that library consists of that kind of research. So I'm looking at it, and again, even though I read all this and researched it, and I wrote papers on this, there's still no conclusive evidence.
Right.
But
I mean, unless somebody unearths a tomb from the 1400s that has both Templar symbols and Masonic symbols.
Yeah, and a book of matches. Right.
Yeah, I
from
mean, the
future.
closest, and the other thing is if you go back to like at Roslyn Chapel, when Mr. Sinclair died, he had wrote on his tombstone, Knight Templar.
Yeah, there were. Yeah,
Right, that's what he called himself. But it was what, the 1700s? Like,
No.
maybe he was a kook. I don't know.
oh well, the Sinclairs were back
Yeah.
there in the 1300s.
yeah, they were right.
So you're saying that
Roslyn was built in 1400s.
What?
So you're saying that Freemasonry started with the Templars in about the 1037,
I think the philosophy. I think the foundation was there. Because of that.
I think personally, two covert groups fell in line together at the same time, under the same blanket of
The
secrecy.
Illuminati and the Rosicrucians.
No. That all came later. That came with opium and the 18th century. But I do believe that at some point there was a period of time when any new knowledge, light, was considered heretical. And in order to spread that light, one needed the cover of secrecy. And they found this particular trade guild as opposed to the Carpenters Guild or the Shoemakers Guild or the Fabric Makers Guild or the Fullers Guild or whatever. This particular guild had this structure already set up because it was chartered in 983, right? So there was this whole old school structure that was built around secrecy, obedience, and loyalty. And that's what we have today. And that, I think, is as close to a genealogy as you can produce.
Well, the guilds themselves were
Right.
very similar to the stonemasons, to the guilds.
Right.
They had their apprentices, they had their masters, they had their secrecy.
Right.
They had because they wanted to control.
But one of the biggest differences in them was the traveling component. And then
Yeah.
in order to travel to the next construction site, you had to have those certain word signs and tokens that would let you into the playground. But what I do think happened was that in the 17th and 18th centuries, there was a huge explosion in scientific knowledge, right? Priestleys and all the people that were just really uncovering the fundamental nature of science, of the world as we know it, of the geo, the earth, metry, the measurement of, right? So all those proto-scientists that were just coming out and publishing their work, again, needed a blanket of secrecy to spread it out in. And it's no mistake that the first class of the Royal College of Science in Oxford was who? Isaac Newton, Christopher Wren, all those people who were
Elias Ashmole.
Yeah. So all
Freemasons.
all of that because they needed the cover of secrecy in order to spread that new knowledge, or else they would have been like Galileo, confined or destroyed because they were bringing light to the world. So, I mean, that's where I see all of this. If you're gonna give us a genealogy, rather than the Knights. And the Knights are great, and I love the Knights and swords and, Are You With Me, Wallace, and all that. But I think it's less dramatic than that. It's more pragmatic. The whole spread of Freemasonry in the 19th century, right, as England became, the nation that the sun never set on the British Empire, right? What better way to guarantee your interests in trade abroad than to have a whole bunch of people sworn to consider your interests as sacred as their own? right? Under the penalty of being ostracized by everybody in town. They'd never do business again. So for me, that's the second wave. That maybe that first wave was that scientific stuff, but the second wave was the international trade component that just set up a structure of public guarantee that we still work with today.
When did that second wave take place?
When the British Empire exploded, and you're going to you're opening the spice routes, and you're opening the.
But let's go back even further. The Knights Templar set those trade routes up. The Knights Templar had a commercial fleet.
Not this. Yes, true.
The Knights Templar had banking and finance throughout all of their area. Knights Templar had hotel systems.
Right, but how does that make them any part of this secret society?
They're the egg.
Where?
They're the egg. They came before the chicken. You're talking about the British Empire being the chicken.
I am the walrus. Cuckoo.
Thank you for bringing us back.
Yes.
All right.
So
we should probably take a breath.
Oh, okay. We'll take a break while we try and resuscitate Larry. Hey, welcome back. So, Larry, this episode is going downhill really quickly.
No, this is pretty good. No, this is good. This is really good. This
Okay,
is good.
so Larry, is there anything that'll make you give up on your theory?
No.
Okay, good. I mean, I do wonder, like, where they went. It's a great mystery. Where did the Templars go? And where did their secrecy, take them? And I don't see it as a stretch to think that maybe they kind of got melded in and absorbed into the existing system of secrecy that was out there, like Jack's saying.
Right, absolutely.
So
no argument there.
I think, I don't want to be like I was going to say a debutante, the wrong word, a diplomat. I don't want to be a diplomat, but like, I think you're both right.
Right.
They come together and and maybe Larry's right. It is the one egg. There's two eggs. They came together and they made an omelet.
See, and the only place we differ in this, Larry, and that I love you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
So that's established, right?
Mwah.
So the only difference is how you define that gray area in the middle, which is all about interpersonal relationships that there is no record of. That's what really defines this argument, right? So it's unknowable, right? It's agnostic, but
you do see though that Freemasons historically, when they're telling their stories and they're using parables and they're using all these things, just like all of us and pretty much all of our listeners, your degree work is all based around the Hiramic legend.
Yeah,
but 100, 150 years ago, you take Hiram out and you implant Noah,
right?
And there's, I have like I don't know whether it's Morgan's book or like Monitor on Freemasonry or something from the 1800s, and it details every single degree, and like the degree that I know when I went through Scottish Rite, the Prince of Peace, I think that degree was all about like Civil War soldiers. Well, in this book, it was about Jesus. And, so we love grabbing well-known historical and especially creepy things. So what could be more secretive,
creepy things,
than secretive and badass than these knights? Because they were like some super tough guys.
Well, all right. So go up to 30,000 feet and let's look at what's happening. It's the middle of the 13th century, and all these failed knights are coming home from the Orient, which then was that area, right? So they're coming back and they're bringing back all that Byzantine knowledge that the West had lost when Alexandria was sacked, right? So the West goes into the Dark Ages, but there's still this remnant knights errant that are running around the Middle East, and they're absorbing the culture, and they're absorbing the algebra, and they're absorbing all of the geometry of the buildings and all that stuff, and then they're going home to Europe. So absolutely, they brought that stuff back, and I see that whole wave of people going back from the Crusades as being, that was the spark that lit the Renaissance. So yeah. I don't see any difference in where we come from. There's no value for me anyway. And this is where it's different, right? Because this is me and you're you. I don't draw any value in this whole ancient Christian knights theory. It doesn't do anything for me. But if it does something for you, that's great. You're honored to take that opinion that it was the knights that did it. I think it was just a geopolitical shift as much as it was specifically about the knights.
Right.
So.
Anything else you want to cover on this topic, Larry?
Thread.
Wait, we're just beginning, actually.
So, what else?
Well,
you missed your notes, so
yeah, I didn't bring any notes here tonight at all. I tried to do this from memory, and my memory failing.
We're going to do this by the format and the notes. I don't have any notes.
I did say that earlier, didn't I? Yeah.
So Larry, I think this is a good time to interrupt and to address something you brought up to me off air, and I think we need to bring it up on air.
Okay.
You told me that you've received a few phone calls.
Yes, I have.
Accusing this show, and probably especially me, of ageism.
Only because you're the snarkiest.
I don't know that I want to call it. I've had a few that alluded to that. Yeah. The others were kind of like that, or maybe I was being treated harshly, or.
But we have fun with it.
But that's right. When we put this show together, you and I, one of the things we talked about was let's have fun with this. Yeah. There were certain things that I would do that you brought up, and it was perfect. And I tell people, especially the people that call me, I want to say this show is scripted. It's loosely scripted. But there is not anything that we say to each other that we don't clear with each other or we don't agree with. I mean, it's part of our show. It's part of what makes us, I think, good.
I don't want to say it's a shtick, but I mean, we do this on purpose.
We do it on purpose, exactly.
But this is the same way I talk to you at breakfast.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the same way you'll talk to me in lodge.
Right, but the point being is that's why people enjoy coming to breakfast, because they see the.
That's right.
It's real.
That's right.
Fraternal slapstick.
But I think I think probably what people don't see is I can give it back as well as take it.
Right.
And that doesn't show up here, but I don't want it to, because we have a very good show here. We have a way of doing it, and it's successful.
One of the things, and Jason was talking about this earlier, when Jason was talking about the virtual lodge.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So Larry's talking about Jason was talking about this virtual lodge, and you know what? For me, for Pete, I think it's silly. It's not something I'm into. But I see there's value in it. And there's a lot of uptight Masons out there that they treat this whole fraternity with such high reverence that it's not something that you should ever joke about. No fun shall ever be had. Well, that's just not. And they can have that opinion, but they need to tolerate the fact that there's a lot of Masons out there that have fun.
Being progressive is not irreverence, and I think that's a difficult pill. The unfortunate part is that
Wow, somebody write that down. That was profound as hell. What did you just say?
I don't remember, but luckily we have it. We have it on tape. I'm going to be careful how
being progressive is not irreverence.
Right.
I got that. Yeah, there you go. I do think, though, that as a whole, that Freemasonry has been very accepting of the changes. I mean, they're not opening the door immediately, but I look around at all the different stuff that is driving interest in our craft. And when the older folks are seeing the petitions that are coming with it, They're
But you know, the things are traditional observance lodges are on the uprise. You know, everybody wants to go visit a traditional observance lodge. And younger people, everybody wants to go visit a virtual lodge. I want to do both. It's not a old is better than new. It's different is better than the way that we're doing it now. I mean, both of those things are on far ends of the spectrum, and they're both equally interesting.
When we initially talked about the ageism thing, I started looking at my life in Freemason for almost 44 years. And I actually began to do some research on it. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing out there on it. And I don't think we have a problem where ageism is involved in our fraternity. You guys know how old I am. I know how old you guys are. We don't have a problem with my age at all. And I look at my lodge, we have some guys in there that are a lot older than I am. And I love these guys. And the young people look up to them. There's no disrespect.
well, I look at our breakfast. I think, is Bob the oldest at 83?
I think Sam is, isn't he? He's in almost 90.
Okay. So we go, and if Tyler, who's the young guy? There's somebody there that's 21 that comes once in a while.
Ben Wachter.
No,
Ben?
he's got kids. He's older than that.
All right, but we go from our 20s to almost 90 at this group, and we all interact and we have fun with each other. And yes, I treat any adult with respect, but like, I treat those guys like my brothers, and I have fun with them and I goof around with them, and that's not disrespectful.
Well, I think we're also,
if I treated them with kid gloves, that's actually being discriminatory.
correct.
I think it's disrespectful too, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that in the context of what we received, this concern was our show specific. Not, I mean, we're going on a tangent and applying it to all of Masonry, but we're just, and for all intents and purposes, what happens here is
I think that's
shtick.
I honestly think that's part of the point of it, though, is to point out that all that stuff is universal and applies across different situations.
There's something that I like to call, and I didn't come up with this, I think I heard Bill Maher say it the first time, the soft bigotry of low expectations. If I were to be nice to Larry just because he's old, like, that is like, you know what, he can't do any better.
That's the worst kind of ageism.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's my point. Like, the best thing I can do is treat everybody the same. And
Absolutely.
if that's shitty, that's how I treat people, but it's my birthday, so I'm allowed.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, Brother Pete. Yeah, absolutely. The cake was outstanding.
Yes, we had some ice cream cake before the show.
Yes.
All righty.
Yeah.
I guess we'll take another quick break, and we've got some interesting segments coming up. I don't know what they are, but we have interesting segments.
They'll be fascinating.
Hey there, listeners. This is Pete, and I wanted to tell you about MasonicScarves.com. Masonic Scarves offers full-color, knitted soccer-style scarves, perfect for you to wear to lodge, out casually, or even to display in your home. I currently have in our lineup pretty much every Masonic body from Blue Lodge, York Rite, Scottish Rite, Grotto, Shrine. If you think about it, I probably have it. Are you a turtle? Well, you bet your sweet ass I have a scarf for that. So you can easily order online with a credit card, and I'll generally have your scarf in the mail the next business day. Do you need an easy fundraiser for your lodge or organization? I can have a custom scarf design delivered to you in about 4 weeks, as long as you order a minimum of 50 pieces. I can help you with the artwork, and you'll have an original item that you can sell or hand out as a gift for visitors or past masters. Visit MasonicScarves.com or drop me an email at info@MasonicScarves, and I'll be glad to help you. Hey, we're back. Coming up, we have Corpus Obscurum with Seth Anthony. And Larry, you were just saying, like, Seth is actually, besides recording these for us, he's actually doing a lot for us.
Yeah, he is. Seth has become one of our strongest supporters. And he got a hold of me the other day, and he has some people that he brought before me that he said might be interested in coming on the show. And I said, absolutely. And when I asked him about them, he sent me some links that they're on. These people are fantastic. So thank you so much. And thanks for being one of our strongest supporters. Really, you're helping us a lot. And the Museum of Fezology, we want to give that a shout out. That is an awesome organization. And I understand it's being remodeled right now.
It is.
Yes.
Brother Scott Hoover's painting.
Down there painting. Yes, exactly. I mean, the place is going to be a showroom.
I hope he's got a lot of drop cloths, and because he's got a tendency to get some overspray on a fez. I don't want that to happen. And then so we're gonna take a listen to Seth's piece of Corpus Obscurum, and then we're gonna go right into Brother on the Street. And who's on Brother on the Street this week?
Brother Noel Wenrich.
And Noel's a past master of your lodge.
He is.
And he is also the charter president of the Widow's Sons in Lancaster.
Yep, and he is the statewide secretary, I believe.
Okay. So you can hear a lot about what Brother Noel is doing with
rebuilding a Huey.
You're about to enter
Corpus Obscurum,
the realm of weird fraternal organization.
Leave your Freemasonry behind.
Prepare to meet druids, caliphs, and wild creatures.
Knock thrice.
And enter at your own risk.
Good day, podcast listener. Everyone knows the story of King Arthur, right? Well, what happens when Masons take this story, add a dash of biblical lore, and a Freemason's flair for ritual? Why, you get the ancient order of Knights of the Mystic Chain. Founded by Freemasons in 1871, the group had a strong Masonic influence in its rituals and degrees, as well as incorporating elements from the Bible and Arthurian legend. The Knights were organized on 3 levels. Local units were called subordinate castles. State or regional groups were grand castles, and the highest authority was, you guessed it, the Supreme Castle. Reflecting the Masonic background of its founders, the Knights of the Ancient Order of the Mystic Chain worked 3 degrees. The first was the White or Esquire degree, which was based on the story of the Good Samaritan. The Sir Knights or Blue degree was based on Arthurian legend. The third was the Red or Round Table degree, which emphasized the certainty of death. There was also a uniformed Mark degree open to past officers of subordinate castles, and a Supreme degree conferred by the Supreme Castle. In 1890, a female auxiliary called the Naomi or Daughters of Ruth degree was founded. Originally, this was controlled by the Supreme Castle, but later became autonomous. Popular along the eastern seaboard, and especially in eastern Pennsylvania, the group flourished during the golden age of fraternalism, but started to die out around the time of the Great Depression. Today, it is presumed that the order is extinct. Want to know more? You can learn about historic fraternal groups and the effect they had on America by visiting and supporting the J.H. Rathbone Museum, located in Lafayette, Indiana, and on the web at www.jhrathbonemuseum.org.
Brother on the Street with R.C. McCorvey.
Back by popular demand here, Brother on the Street, live in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, at Dutch County Helicopters with our brother Noel. He's a Widow Sons president, past master of Lodge 43, and we're here today to bring awareness of a project he's working on over here at the helicopter place. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
What we're doing is it's a group called Liberty Warbird Association, and we're working on restoring to flight status a Huey helicopter that actually flew in Vietnam from 67 through 69. So we basically bought the helicopter. It was no longer flying, hadn't flown in 12 years. Over the last 2 years, we've taken it, totally torn it down, and are in the process of rebuilding it now. And again, the end goal is to have this flying again so that we can go out and take former Vietnam veterans out on helicopter ride as well as the public and make them aware of what the Huey is and what it did for us back in Nam.
Well, I've been in and toured it, and it's phenomenal. They're totally restoring it. It's totally tore down and they're building it up. And how many guys do you have working in a crew?
There's approximately 11 of us that turn wrenches, and then the admin side, getting parts and some other things. There's a total of about 20 very regular people.
And they were telling me a story about the cost of the propellers.
The rotor blades themselves.
The rotor blades was phenomenal. What's the price on that again?
$60,000 per blade is what they're telling us.
That's a lot of fundraising. It was telling me the different fundraisings you guys have done. You've actually have took them out, the whole helicopter, put it on a truck and took it out to Carlisle. And what other kind of fundraisers they do?
Well, it was over at the Army Heritage Museum in Carlisle. Here at the airport each year, they do a 5K run that actually utilizes the runway of the airport. I think they said that's going to be in October this year. There's community days that the airport holds. It'll be out on static display for that. We'll pull it out of the hangar so it can be viewed. As well as we're now planning a motorcycle ride, which isn't totally done yet, so we can't announce it. We're still got a couple little things to work out. But we're going to do a motorcycle ride and then a little cookout here and hopefully raise some money from that.
Yeah, I would advise anybody and everybody to come by and take a look. It's a phenomenal thing that's going on here. This is mind-blowing because I've never saw a Huey live. I've always saw them either on TV or in pictures, but to actually go through, see the helicopter, interact with it, see the different parts, what make it, just to see it, you know. And I'm not a vet, but I could imagine, you know, the vets that come in and probably bring back a lot of memories.
Well, you were in there while we were doing our tour. That was a veteran from NAM that was in there, the other guy that was coming around. And he was starting to tell some of the stories about how the Huey came in and saved his life.
Yeah, he was saying his granddaughter had pictures of his granddaughter in it or something like that. It's a history, live history in there. And,
well, it's history that you're actually able to put your hands on. It's not like a museum piece like down Smithsonian. They've got a Huey down there, but you can't touch it. You can't feel it. You can't open the doors and look inside.
Yeah, I was able to open the doors, roll the windows down, feel the skin. Was showing me the stories and actually the visualizing the different bullet wounds that were patched and repatched. And it's a phenomenal thing. If they want to get a hold of anybody there or go on Facebook or actually come down here live and see it.
You're talking about the bullet patches. I'll get to that at the end. There are, that we know of and have counted, 37 bullet hole patches. So this thing saw some hard combat. So, you know, again, that's something you just can't see. It's usually repaired. We're going to leave those patches on there, and as it was in NAM, it will be today. The website for Liberty Warbirds is LibertyWarbirds, all one word, @gmail.com is the email address. It is on Facebook. Just search Liberty War Bird. And it's, again, that's all one word, but it's War, W-A-R, no S in that one. And that is how you can get a hold of them, put messages through. They do respond to that. It's kind of how I was contacted originally. A gentleman that I had served with and was crew chiefing with had found me through Facebook and told me about this project and just invited me to come down. Literally came down, walked in the hangar, smelled the smells, and he looked at me and goes, "You're here for 5 years." So, you know, it is an amazing thing. They do respond to any emails you send them or any inquiries you make on Facebook.
Okay, I see the number here, 717-575-3757. That's 717-575-3757. You were past master at 43, and just want a little history on how you became a Mason and how long you've been a Mason and what have you got out of being a Mason.
Man, what I got out's the hardest question you got there, man. What are you doing to me? I'm in my 12th year of Freemasonry now. Turns out, you know, we'll go back. I used to go to the Shriners, Zumbo Shrine, their circus every year. I would go to that every year as a kid, and I remembered that, loved it. And I found out as I grew up and I went out and joined the military, there's this group of Masons out there and the Shriners belong to them. Well, I wanted to be a Shriner. So how do I get in the Masons? And while I was in the military, I had a hard time with that. Couldn't connect with somebody that could get me into a lodge. When I came back home, found somebody that would sponsor me into a lodge, joined up, and then I saw the officer line, got interested in that. And, you know, in our lodge, it's about a 9-year journey to go up to become master, and working my way up through, and now I'm past master. So I get to sit back on the sidelines and grumble about not the way I did it.
But now you also have something very special going on. You'll be
that was...
yeah, you'll be...
My son, who is 26, will be joining our lodge. I am going to be conferring his first degree. If I can stagger through it, there's going to be people there just to see if I crack.
That's going to be very interesting. He's like going on he's doing the first degree, but he's doing it at the end of the night, right?
Yeah, I'll be doing that long degree at the end of the night.
That's going to be a long night. We as Masons know about that, being long nights and getting up, going to work first thing in the morning. But that's going to be exciting to see. I'll be attending that. And I might be doing a live interview from there afterwards. And yeah, I guess I'll do that to give you guys an update and see how it went. So stay tuned. This brother on the street out with Brother Noel from Past Master 43.
Hey, welcome back. And that was, you just heard Brother Noel and Brother on the Street.
Yeah, talking about rebuilding a wartime helicopter.
Vietnam War Huey helicopter.
So I think we need to rein Brother on the Street in a little bit, because I think his clip was, 2 gigs and 15 minutes of video? So we're...
Hopefully you all saw that video in your earplugs.
So yeah, we only put about half of that on the show. So we're going to have a link to the full thing on our Facebook page.
Yeah, because they do continue on talking about the widow's son, which is pretty... The widow's sons, which is pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, so you'll have a 15-minute video clip you can take a look at.
Yeah, R.C. Brother on the Street's doing some good work right now, let's face it. Doing some real good work.
I mean, it's the best work he's done all week. Larry.
Yes, sir.
So do you have anything Masonic coming up in the next week or two?
Other than Wednesday at the Zembo, no, I do not. Goose and Gridiron, the usual stuff. Nothing exceptional, nothing special.
Jason, you have anything coming up?
We have our stated meeting, and we're doing a widows program, which will be pretty nice. And then the week after that is a reunion for the Scottish Rite. And those are the 2 big ones coming up.
Jack, you have anything going on?
Well, we have stated meeting on Tuesday, dinner at 6, meeting at 7. And then we have some extra work on Thursday of this. Well, this week being last week, because it's next week before this is this week.
This coming weekend, I have something kind of big going on. You guys all should go, but you won't.
Easter.
It's not... Okay, it's not this weekend. Bunny. Not this weekend, because that's Easter.
Oh.
2 weekends is the Pennsylvania Grotto Association, the Empire State Grotto Association, and the Colonial Grotto Association. We're all having our meeting at the same place at the same time. Oh. So we're going to be at the Aspire Hotel in Gettysburg. And it's just going to... At least for the Colonial Grotto Association, we meet 2 times a year, and this is like the off time. So we don't vote on anybody. There's really nothing to talk about other than so we're just going to have fun.
To be social.
Yeah.
The main day is Saturday, right?
The main day is Saturday, where if you want to go to the dinner at night, or we actually have a real meeting where we would vote on things that we need to vote on everything. But I mean, Friday night, if you want to come up just for the...
And what officer are you in one of these?
I am the president of the Colonial Grotto Association. Victor Mann, who is the Supreme Council...
Junior?
No, he is the captain of the guard. He is president of the Empire State Grotto Association. And a guy named Russell Combs, who's a past master from Delco Grotto, is president of the Pennsylvania Grotto Association.
He also worked at Grand Lodge. I don't know what his title was there, but he was a Grand Lodge
Yeah, so
employee.
basically the hospitality room is going to be hopping. That's, so if you're a Freemason or a grotto, or you want to be, I don't care what you are. If you want to come and have a cocktail, hang out with some brothers, come see us that weekend.
That reminds me, that's April 22nd. And so if you're not a grotto member, James Buchanan's annual wreath laying is that same day. Lodge 43 goes in our tuxes and is present for that. And it's always a nice ceremony at his gravesite.
And the following weekend, I guess we'll probably be back in between, but I'll give a plug for it, is Masonic Con, the 29th up in Attleboro, Massachusetts at Ezekiel Bates Lodge. There's going to be hundreds of vendors, a handful of speakers. There's no cost for any of that. Lunch is a $5 donation if you want to eat there. Also, the local grotto, which is Nava Grotto, and I'm going to totally mispronounce it, but the local tall cedars forest is like Massa Pequot or something. It's like a Native American name, forest. The grotto are doing a grotto degree, and the tall cedars are doing a tall cedars degree. And it's casual dress all day. So if anybody wants to become a grotto member or become a tall cedar, reach out to me on the show, and I'll put you in touch with whoever you need to be in touch with.
Nice. I have a request for our listeners.
Okay.
On April, let me get my calendar. On April 27th, it is the fourth. No, is that the 4th? Yeah, that is the 4th Thursday of the month. We have a Lodge 43 member who now lives in New Mexico coming home, but he's bringing a few officers from his traditional observance lodge with him. But they want to see some Pennsylvania degree work. And I am struggling to find an extra meeting within the central Pennsylvania area on April 27th. So if we have a listener out there that knows of a lodge within driving distance of Lancaster, we'd sure like to come visit.
Sounds good.
You can email us at where? Or Facebook us?
MasonicLightPodcast@gmail.com.
That sounds pretty good.
And you guys lied to me. You said you're going to come up to New England, but I don't think you guys are coming up.
So here's what's going on with New England.
Birthday,
Really?
29th.
So the original plan was to go up there with Jack Aquilina so we could meet Jack Aquilina in the flesh. And Jack is canceled. Well, not canceled, but he has a work opportunity to make some bucks, which will fund his trip here in June to go to the Masonic Roundtables event June 24th down in D.C.
So he likes them better than us. I get it. I understand.
Well,
They're more established and they have more listeners. They are more professional.
Yes, that's for sure.
Okay, 3 for 3. I want to go there too.
So I'm on the fence about doing one of the two, and if we go down to DC for the 300, then my parents live down there, so it's kind of a no-brainer. Go see my parents, go meet Jack. He's considering coming back the week after that and spending some time in Lancaster and trying to see some of our meetings. He might extend his vacation if we can pull it off.
Do you think someone should cover the Grotto Association meetings from here, from the MLP group?
I think so. I mean, I'm kind of busy.
Yeah, you are.
So yeah, I mean,
I will volunteer to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
bring some of the equipment out.
I got wreaths delay.
It's Gettysburg, so it's not.
Yeah.
You could do it, go up and come back. You don't have to get a room. Yeah. Or if you want to get a room, it's like $80 a night.
Oh, Lord.
I guess we should go home. Let's wrap this up.
We'll just come back. We have no news.
Wow.
No,
although our news director is here in body and spirit tonight.
No news is good news.
No news is good news.
We had long enough, brother on the street. Let's just cue the banjo music and get the hell out of here.
Special thanks to Monarch Studios for allowing us to continue to record here, and to Mrs. Monarch for the wonderful birthday cake tonight. Our producer, Jason Lewis. Our news director, Jack Harley. R.C. McCorvey, brother on the street. To Brother Pete Ruggieri, happy birthday to you.
Thank you much.
And basically, that's all I've got for tonight.
Yeah, I have nothing else.
Wow. All right. Good night.
I have nothing to offer.
Hey, this is Larry saying good night. Thank you for listening.
It's Jason. Good night.
Pete. And there's Jack.
And sometimes Jack.
Da, 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 da.
Please, someone pick up. We got dead air here.
Oh, my God, I gotta blow my nose.